Chris Grimes in second place, but coming from the outside, Carl Cleary, who was, in fact, second quickest in the first run. So these are the two big boys battling it out now in the second heats.
Richardson very, very quick in the first run, but had a very clear road to do it in. But look at Cleary here in the mini, trying to hold on to this very, very quick Fiesta indeed. Richardson, a beautifully prepared car, and a beautiful run in the first heats. Doesn't seem to be overdoing it here, getting it nicely straight out onto the tarmac there. Most important to get it there. And in the background there you see Carl Cleary in the little black mini, and then the battle behind between Broderick and Grimes, really trying hard. But it is Richardson on the way to the Budweiser hairpin. The battle in the background really going well there. Grimes, the little Talbot all over him there. The Sunbeam Talbot of Brendan Broderick really trying hard. Grimes holding the centre of the loose. That's our second place man, Carl Cleary, just going onto the loose at Barham, back out onto the tarmac, and you can see the lead that Richardson has already, Alan.
Yes, Carl Cleary, I'm afraid, with this 1480cc Mini really can't reply to this very fast rear-wheel drive Fiesta, and it's just pulling away all the time. He did a time, as I say, full 5 seconds clear of Cleary in the first round, and it could be even greater on this run. They've got about 2.5 laps still to go in these 5-lap heats. There's the young Carl Cleary, who's incidentally the nephew of the great Dermot Carnegie, and I use the word great with great gusto, because Carnegie, of course, was the top Irishman at the European Rallycross Championship last year, and will be well in the hunt when he comes out in his STP Metro 6R4 tomorrow. But Richardson it is, of the local men at the moment, in certainly a class of his own. Carl Cleary, who had a bad accident at this event last year, and here's the battle now for third. And Chris Grimes driving very defensively, Brian, as he comes down here.
Yes, he's got to use that inside line to keep Broderick out and keep the power on. A slight miss there from Grimes Mini, and he's driving the centre of the road till he gets into the tight corners and then uses the inside line. That's our leader, Clive Richardson, in the Fiesta, winging his way on this 5-lap in the second heats of this weekend here at Mondello. He's on his last lap. Not a lot more he has to do. Carl Cleary getting a little out of shape there on the loose, and we watch for the battle in the background between Grimes and Broderick. That's our leader on the tarmac for the last time at Mobile, as he comes back onto the loose at Barham, waiting just to turn, not overdoing things here, keeping it nice and straight, just coming up to get the checkered flag for the second time today. Cleary in the background there, and the little black Mini is in second place. Checkered flag as we wait for the third place battle between Grimes and Broderick, and they're a long way behind them. They're still locked together. Grimes and the little white Mini just holding that centre line. The Talbot and somebody Talbot can do nothing about it, and they finished that 5-lap heat, and that's our winner there, Clive Richardson in the Fiesta.
Had 2 heat victories here this afternoon, and there's one of the people to challenge him, Paul Timms in his 1340 Mini coming onto the grid. But it's number 727 we're really looking out for, not that man, that's Dennis Dunn. He drove very well in his first heat as well, but there's the big challenger, I would imagine, in this one, Tommy Graham in his Fiesta. So I would imagine it will be between the Metro of Lloyd Spendlove on the left-hand side of the grid and Tommy Graham's Fiesta on the right-hand side of the grid. There they go, Dunn made a super start. Last time the Minis left, but Spendlove through the inside, Tommy Graham coming across them.
Superb start from Tommy Graham from the outside of the front row, which is the longest way, but if he can get out there, it is the quickest line. But Spendlove now having a look. You remember last time Spendlove spent his life looking over his shoulder. The little Mini there of Tim's been swallowed up by these other three. Spendlove got a little wide there on the loose, and Graham seems to have gained an advantage there on the loose at the chicane. Really working on the tarmac. Little dab on the brakes and flat on the power on the loose here at Barham. Setting the car up a little bit too sideways in the middle of it, gave Spendlove a little bit of an advantage. Spendlove lost that advantage by going too wide, but it's Tommy Graham at the moment leading at the end of this first lap.
Well, now Tommy Graham in a sense needed that good start because he was fractionally slower than Spendlove on the first runs. So Spendlove has the ability to pull it back if he can really get the head down now and concentrate, and he's got a good view of the Fiesta ahead of him. That's always an encouraging thing. 4 laps to go in this 5-lap heat, and I think we've got quite a battle here between the two top men. They were in fact 3rd and 4th quickest after the first heat. So Graham Spendlove again, a little bit wild, and then he does all this looking around him again. He really cannot seem to concentrate on the job.
Yes, Graham's car rear-wheel drive, he can stick the tail out and keep on the very dry line where the loose has been pushed out. But Spendlove with the front-wheel drive seems to be understeering on the loose and getting out on the parallel stuff, which is losing a lot of traction. Back with Graham here, 727, always drove with this number on his car, little Fiesta, beautifully prepared. Gets it all right there on the tarmac, not using any of the loose. Spendlove got it a little better that time, making a little bit of ground. As Alan said, we know he can go quicker. He's got a clear run. There's not a lot of dust problems here at the moment. He's a clear view of the back of that Escort. He will really want to do a quick time, because after these runs they're seeded into CB and A finals, and it'll be a situation he will want to be in the good heats to get his best time out of the runs, and then they're seeded into the finals for later in the afternoon. But Tommy Graham putting up a good time at the moment.
So going on to the last lap now, and Lloyd Spendlove shadowing Tommy Graham. Spendlove is only 22 years old. Graham again kicks the tail of that Fiesta out, and certainly it seems to be fractionally closer. There won't be very much difference in their times, but of course it will mean that Tommy Graham will have reversed the order from the first run. So the Carlsberg car there in second place, getting a bit of a froth on, I think, at the moment. There's the gap, you can see it between them as they come up towards the checkered flag. Tommy Graham, Spendlove undoubtedly closer, but there's going to be no doubt about the victory. Tommy Graham takes it easily, Spendlove in second place, then a long gap before we get the battle for third place. And there's the winner, Tommy Graham. Looking at the impressive Andrew Carson in his Alpha Sud, who's already experienced contact here this afternoon at Mondello. He's there already waiting on the grid. Waiting to come in is David O'Riordan there, number 242 in the little red and white Fiesta. On the left of your screen is John Smith from Dublin in his 2-litre Pinto Mark II Escort, and the fourth person on the grid, John Farrell, in his G4, because it's the 1904 body shell. And there they are. That's Smith there, concentrating, waiting for the lights to change. 5 laps, heat 3. Good close one, I think this will be. Looking down the former times, Farrell was the quickest of them. But it's Smith on the inside. Oh, and a bit of boxing there. Carson boxing in. Undoubtedly David O'Riordan going right round the outside. Beautiful manoeuvre, John Farrell.
John Farrell got a very, very good start. Got the jump on John Smith, and again that outside line very quick, but comes in to close that inside door so that nobody can run down the inside. A little bit of smoke there from David O'Riordan, the Fiesta, but John Farrell now and John Smith and the 2 Escorts. Farrell, a brilliant start indeed from the outside of that row as they dived for the loose and getting it a little sideways. Smith getting it very, very sideways indeed, so it'll battle between these two. And the third place man, number 235, Andrew Carson there in the little Alpha Sud.
John Farrell, that was the second man, Brian, who we've noticed has made a good start from the outside of the front row, so maybe there's a bit more grip out there.
Yes, grip. The new surface here at Mondello Park has been resurfaced. The whole 1.25-mile racetrack has been resurfaced with a fabulous grip. The lap times in Formula Ford have come down by over 3 seconds, and it's obviously working away here for these slick-shod rallycross cars. They start on the tarmac, but that's our leader at the moment. John Farrell now beginning to pull out from John Smith, number 257 in the red and white Escort.
John Farrell has been actually practicing on the grass because he goes autocrossing, which is very similar to this except on grass, and he's won his class on every event so far this year, so he's in good tune, not only him but the car. There's Andrew Carson with the RG Agencies Alpha Sud, an unusual front-wheel drive, of course. David O'Riordan we've lost, sadly, in the Fiesta, so it's down to 3 people, and John Farrell is the leader.
John working well in this Escort. A quick glance in the mirror, you can see Smith trying to work his way up. He needs to draw back a car length at a time, keep it as straight as he can on the loose, come off that loose holding a very, very clear line. Farrell, plenty of time, plenty of space. He can dive out to the left to get the quick line around the hairpin and get a good line through the chicane. Very important to get that hairpin right, because that's where you set the car up for this very tight chicane. Off the chicane, onto the tarmac again at Mobile, then back onto the loose at Barham. And Farrell at the moment doing it all right, the same as Tommy Graham did, as Alan said, from the outside of the row. He got the jump at the start and he's just pulling away from John Smith.
So the much newer technology of this converted Mark IV Escort there, as opposed to the old Mark II car of John Smith. And John Smith, in fact, was fractionally quicker than Farrell in the first run, so it's a bit of a reversal here.
As they finish their first runs, all the tweaks will be done, resetting the suspension, because they will know after the first runs just how the Mondello Rallycross circuit is working today. There is a line as we're coming up. Farrell takes the checkered flag, Smith is second. As I was saying, the track now settled down, the loose is gone really quick here at the stand. Third place man, but there's our winner, John Farrell, number 258 in the Escort. And on pole position 271, Davy Francis in this Escort G3. And coming up beside him is Alan Eady in the 1480cc Mini number 236. The middle of this grid is Francis Manweiler in the Imp. And on the outside we should have number 256, Bill Barker in the Little Starlet. No doubt about who the really quick man is here. That's Francis, but a surprise in the last heats, just how quick that Starlet was, Alan.
Yes, it was very nearly as quick as Francis. So again, we're going to look at possibly the two cars on the extremity of the road here. So look out for Francis and Bill Barker. Barker gets a good start from the outside as he has, but Francis has rocketed off the start line, using all that turbo Cosworth power to his advantage, as opposed to the more conventional Ford engine Starlet, if that's a conventional thing, of Bill Barker in second place. Alan Eady coming in third place, and a pretty well developed Mini, but even the ultimate Mini nowadays on dry conditions like we're having today is no match for this sort of technology.
Oh, you can see the rear suspension of that Escort really working on the bumps, getting it very, very sideways there, Francis in the Escort, and look at the way the Starlet could close on him. Starlet the last time very quick through this right-hander on the loose here, just flicks it in nice, can keep the power on, and is very, very good on the brakes down. Gets it slightly wide there, heading for the grass. Barker unfortunately, but very, very good in the brakes. Little light car can just flick it in. Lots of understeer there, but that is not to his advantage, and Francis really had it set up for the loose. But a lovely little car with a wing sitting on the back there to keep the back of the car down. You can hear that whine in the background. That is from Francis's Escort, the Cosworth engine in it. Did it all right that time, didn't get it sideways, and these two just holding station at the moment.
So Davy Francis, loose sprint champion in Northern Ireland many times, hill climber, and indeed winner of the Wexford Rally one time. Very, very experienced over the years in the motor business. Not his car, incidentally, which is quite interesting. It's actually lent by a friend and developed by Davy between the two of them over the years, and now at long last really coming good. So there he goes, and he seems to have Bill Barker well under control now. Coming up, 2 laps to go, and we've lost Barker. There's a huge gap behind him. Barker must have spun or blown. He's going very slowly in the background, and our new second place man is Alan Eady. There's Eady, and there's Barker. We can just see him crawling up the main straight. So Alan Eady in his 1480cc Mini inherits second place, and in fact, as we can see from our control tower now, Barker, I think it's a puncture. I think he's got a puncture left-hand
front wheel punctured. He had a lot of time. Main time, there's no problem with Davy Francis tires. They're working a little bit of a seesaw there, actions. He came out of the straight, looks in his mirror, sees he has a clear circuit, and he's still got as good to do a good time, but he's powering it through there on the loose, out to the right-hand side of the road there to get the quickest line through this very, very tight Budweiser hairpin. Then back on the loose there at the chicane, a little flick left and right, back onto here's our second place man, Alan Eady in the 1480cc Mini. Inherited that second place when poor Bill Barker got that puncture. The Mini's sitting really down. He's on his last lap, coming up now to take the checkered flag.
So David Francis gives William McDowell's car a good win in that one. Derek Jobb from Fintona coming up to take his position on the inside of the grid for this run 5 in Heat 2. And interesting selection once again, because there's 240 George Toll coming out in his Mark II Escort. We should have Philip Armstrong along in a minute in a Talbot Sam on the outside of the grid, and Dermot Rowan is already on the grid in the Corolla. So we're getting down amongst the sort of middle times now, but generally speaking, all the times have been quicker on this second timed run. And of course, if you miss out badly on one of the timed run, all is not lost, Brian, because you're allowed to drop, you're allowed to pick your best 2 out of your 3.
Oh yes, it's your quickest heat. It's important that if you get a break, that you have a quick time. Now it's hard to do that if you've got 3 other cars looking for the same piece of tarmac, but a very, very good start again from the pole position man, Derek Job, at the outside, just getting a nudge. Philip Armstrong getting a little nudge there in the Samba. Now Philip knows his way around Mondello Park here. If he gets involved in a battle with the leader here, the times will not be that great. It'll make very good racing, but he's got to try and put in a good time. So if he decides he wants to get by Derek Job, he's got to do it as quick as possible and try and break away and get a lead. But Job has other thoughts on his mind. He's looking for a quick time as well. Very good time in the last heats. So quick look in the mirror there, but on the loose, Armstrong seems to have the handling of the little Samba, but the Escort has the power in a straight line.
Derek Job, again, one of the stars of this event last year. Slightly more subdued, I feel, this year, and certainly that little Samba is being very cheeky indeed. Philip Armstrong not only holding on, but catching him up in the tight sections at the back, but once the 2-litre power of the Pinto engine in the Ford gets down on the ground, as it is right now, you can see Job spreading out that lead. He was surprisingly only about 9th quickest in his division. And you've got to remember, you're looking actually at the division champion at Kirkeston this year, and indeed 2nd overall in the Kirkeston Rallycross Championship. So, all the more creditable Philip Armstrong's performance. He certainly was on the limit
very
there.
quick on the loose there, and very, very late on the brakes here at the little hairpin, and he gains all that he lost in the main straight. He tries to hang on there in the loose. As Alan said, when the Escort gets on the tarmac, he can pull a couple of car lengths. But Philip Armstrong at the moment lining himself up for the loose to try and get on the tail of the Escort, because it's the next corner, the paddock loose section, and that's getting quicker and quicker as the top layer of loose throws itself out to the outside of the circuit. This is where Armstrong is very quick through this one here. He can gain really well onto the tail. He's going to have a look down the inside under brakes. Job not leaving much room, but very, very close indeed. Now he knows where he has the legs, the Escort. There's 2 laps to go, and Philip Armstrong is thinking, what have I got to do? I've got to stay on his tail here. This is now a new shot coming into us on the tarmac on the outside of that loose. But you can see how the tail of the Escort is out. Armstrong gets the better of that loose. He's really tucked in as they're starting their last lap, and this corner is going to be all important to Philip Armstrong.
Well, this could be dynamite. The man who's in the lead has played badminton for Ireland. Philip Armstrong has rallied on many occasions, and he's putting on a real David and Goliath job here at the moment. So Armstrong, but I doubt he can just have that power. He must rely on a mistake from Job, and that's not looking likely at the moment. Job getting much quicker onto the tarmac that time. That's one of the back markers, and here they are. Here are the leaders coming up to the checkered flag. And it's Job, but Armstrong's right with him, and he'd have a very good time indeed on that run. And that really was a spirited performance for the local man.
That's our winner, 253, Derek Job.
Peter White describes himself as 40 plus, but in those 40 plus years he's been no less than 6 times national autocross champion. And there is the Ritmo of William Flaherty. He's moved from a 3P Fiat to a Ritmo, works for Aer Lingus. And coming up now, Patrick Loughnane. And surely, Brian, he must be the favourite in this one.
The favourite, yes indeed, but the other one to watch for, the last man coming on the grid, number 274, Tom Farrell, the Escort, yet another autocross man, and very, very quick indeed. So we could have a 3-car battle here. Peter White and the older of the Escorts. Only 3 cars in this one. Pole position man gets a good start, but from the outside of the front row, Peter White, a very good start indeed to tuck in behind Patrick Loughnane as they go for the first lot of loose.
And very much a 2-car contest it is, but isn't it lovely to see the old Mark I Escort being driven so beautifully and staying so well in touch. I'm afraid these two are more than a match for the Ritmo, but that's Clubman's car having a lot of fun in the background. But it's a battle between the rear-wheel drive Mark III Escort here and the rear-wheel drive Mark I Escort of Peter White.
Peter White's still hanging on there because Loughnane is getting it very, very sideways in places. White going for the quicker line on the outside, tucking in through on the loose, and seems to definitely have the legs of Loughnane down here and braking for this very, very tight hairpin indeed. Really closing under braking, but follows the fast line on the outside. Loughnane got it slightly sideways at the chicane here. Peter White very much quicker through, taking much tighter line in there. And you can see that large heap of sand on the inside of the chicane. That's to stop any driver deciding he'll take a little shortcut across the inside. But still together, Loughnane doesn't seem to be getting away with all this power, Alan.
So the SCM Motors Mark I there in our picture, really putting on a super battle, and characteristically, as they always did, lifting the front inside wheel. Loughnane, I don't know what happened there, but he gained a little bit of ground. But Loughnane, one would imagine if he steadied up a little bit, would actually be able to pull away even more considerably than he is at the moment. So, Pádraig Loughnane, and he really certainly has got quite an advantage over the old Mark I. Again, a little bit further down in the times after the first runs than we would have expected, down in 11th place, particularly after his showing last year. And now one wonders if Peter White has a problem, because he's suddenly dropped right back and way out of contention. And he's coming past us very slowly indeed. And I think he's going to pull in.
So that leaves it all to Pádraig Loughnane, and this is his chance to put in a really quick time. Now he should see that his opposition has gone to the paddock, so he can just sit back, not relax, but get it in, get everything right through that loose, not too much wide coming out, using all the tarmac. He's looking for a quick time here. He has no opposition, no cars to pass, so nobody on his boot to give him last. He's on his last lap, keeping it nice and straight through there on the loose, using the outside quick line again, flicks it in there to the very tight Budweiser chicane, and this is where he was getting a little sideways. Not that time, he got it perfect, kept the power on, off the loose there, back onto the tarmac, a wide line here as he comes up for the loose, tucks it in, last time around Barham in this heat, and this should be a good time for Loughnane, Alan.
And when you took the pressure off him, he went quicker. So he takes the checkered flag, and an easy win for him in that heat, and probably picking up quite a few seconds in time at the end. So there's our winner, Pádraig Loughnane, in the G3 Escort. And this is a foretaste of the real action tomorrow here at Mondello, when we're going to be seeing the 600 brake horsepower monsters contesting the European Championship. And of course, some of our own top drivers mixing it in amongst them. Amongst them, people like John Maloney, who's been twice Mondello champion in this Metro 6R4. And he's a man that we have very high hopes could be right in amongst the certainly C, B and possibly A finals tomorrow, amongst the very best from Europe. So we've got quite a selection of motor cars out here, from the very quick Division 2 supercars to some of the Group A cars. And amongst the people circulating very fast at the moment are some new names and some equally frightening names from a commentary point of view to mention. There's Tony Bardi going through in the Vauxhall Dealer Sport. That's a very fast Astra GTE 16 valve. There it is. And Bardi has been ultimately successful in this motor car in the British Championship, and indeed he was runner-up in the Northern Ireland Rallycross Championship a couple of years ago. There he is, Tony Bardi from the north of England. Very stylish little driver indeed. Now that car wouldn't have anything like the sophistication of the old supercars, like the one right behind him, which is the full-blooded Audi Quattro, and a new name here at Mondello, Tommy Kristoffersson from Sweden. And he was very spectacular to watch indeed in this morning's on-time practice. And just watch him play away at the steering wheel. This is really what it's all about, Brian, isn't it?
Yes, the difference between the Division 1 and Division 2, the Division 2 cars are these super cars with the four-wheel drive. The Division 1 are two-wheel drive, and Alan mentioned Tony Bardi there. He's had a lot of experience here at Mondello as well, so hopes to do very well. Now that is the Audi. That's the four-wheel drive, two-wheel drive of Kristoffersson and the Audi Quattro S1, and that Division 2 being the number 1 division, and not to confuse you, but 2 is the most powerful cars, and 1 are the smaller, the Golf GTIs, the Sierras, and that sort of thing.
Here's a man that's been at Mondello quite a number of times, Sven Lestender. New car for him. This is the Ford X-Track, 4-wheel drive, specially built, cloaked in the Escort shell. Very quick indeed, and it was Martin Schenker who first invented these motor cars. And it's practice time here again at Mondello, and once again we have some of the very quickest runners for tomorrow's European Championship out testing this very popular track indeed. And looking there at young Shields, who's really been a top runner in both the British Championship, sorry, Stephen Palmer I should say, it's Palmer in the Patricia computer-sponsored cars, and this is the man who has been one of the sensations of Rallycross in the last couple of years in the very popular Metro 6R4, and that's about one of the fastest ones there are in existence at the moment.
Yes, in the background there, the red and white car, Dermot Carnegie, one of the Irish entries who should do well. That's Dermot there. Coming down again, these super 4-wheel drive, the total car there coming down the inside. That's Dermot Carnegie in the Team Pay O'Reilly car, number 30, runner-up in this year's Rallycross Championship to John Maloney, but knows this circuit, slightly down on power. That's another of these Metros, the most popular ones. That's Aidan Cregan from Cregan Properties. Aidan commutes from London to Mondello for the Rallycross series. He knows his way around this track, has uprated his engine a little bit more power, staying there with Dermot at the moment being boxed out by number 29. That's Martin Verreck in the Audi Quattro.
Yes, and just we're watching that Audi Quattro, but it's the one, in fact, just behind this lot, just coming into picture now, that's the really exciting one, because that's Herbert Breitnader, and he's already won 1 round of the European Championship so far this year. He won, in fact, in his own home in Austria, and he's very much a front runner, and you can see it sort of sits up and begs when the power goes down there, and he's having no difficulty swallowing up the Metros before the checkered flag. So those are just a foretaste of some of the mighty power that we're going to be seeing here tomorrow, and indeed the fact that people like Dermot Carnegie there can get well in amongst them.
And these are the really supercars that are out here, out on the track at the moment. We have Alamaki, last year's championship, and Mr. Rallycross himself getting it very sideways. And this is Alamaki. No, this is Thor. Number 5 there is Terry Shee in another one of the Peugeots. That's a very, very spectacular driver indeed, and very, very quick indeed. And these are the absolute supercars out here doing their practice stint at the moment. On the loose, no lift, just full power. You can see him throwing up the dust. Full 4-wheel drive working all the way, well over 600 brake horsepower. And this is Alamaki, we believe, with the wing on the back of the car. Very, very big wing indeed. That is number 1, Matti Alamaki, 1989 Rallycross, European Rallycross Championship, and can he go?
Well, really, this man has been totally unbeaten here at Mondello. This will be his 4th appearance. He's had 3 victories, 2 in a Peugeot and 1 in the Lancia. And this has really been possibly one of the most successful cars of all time in Rallycross. But before Matti Alamaki owned it, it belonged to Miti-Maki, and he also won the European Championship in it. And some of the really quick boys out in this one. We're looking at one of the Audi Quattros yelping its way up, and there is Mr. Rallycross, Martin Schenker, in the RS200, and just watch this for spectacle.
There he is, the RS200, rebuilt, uprated engine, came 2 years ago to Mondello, arrived by helicopter with 5 minutes to sign on, signed on, had never seen the circuit before, went out and put the car on pole position with the quickest time ever. Very, very spectacular indeed. Didn't win the final that day, decided on a different set of tires, sponsored by Sachs, just slowing down now. That practice session is over, and this is the man to watch. That and car number 1 of Alamaki.
One of the very best in the world at the moment, and closing on him.